It's been a rough few weeks for Elon Musk, with Tesla stock prices plummeting and dealerships being vandalized. As Fox 11's Christy Fajardo reports, today protesters demonstrated outside Tesla dealerships to share their wrath at the billionaire and his Doge activities.
In under 30 days, $135 billion vanished. Elon Musk's empire crumbled, publicly, spectacularly. While headlines blamed market jitters and his infamous Twitter meltdowns, the real story was buried beneath layers of global strategy and political retribution. This wasn't business, it was warfare. A trade war cloaked in patriotism detonated beneath Tesla's once bulletproof supply chains, sending shockwaves through international markets. In a matter of weeks, the company went from untouchable to toxic, locked out of foreign markets, abandoned by consumers, and quietly targeted by the very governments it once called allies. But why did Canada turn? How did Europe strike back? And now, with chaos unraveling at home, why are American workers demanding Musk's resignation? What's happening? In April 2025, Canada pulled the trigger on a policy shift that stunned the industry. Effective immediately, Tesla vehicles were no longer eligible for federal EV rebates. The official explanation? Audit issues and financial scrutiny. But the subtext was clear. Tesla was being singled out and punished. To drive the point home, Canada froze $43 million CAD in pending rebate claims, choking off an entire quarter's worth of incentives. Within 72 hours, Tesla's second-largest market outside the US collapsed. Dealerships were flooded with cancellations, inventory stacked up, and financing deals unraveled. With one bureaucratic move, Elon Musk's grip on the Canadian market turned to dead weight. But that was just the opening act. In Europe, tensions that had been simmering since the Trump-era tariffs finally boiled over. The EU unleashed a barrage of retaliatory tariffs aimed squarely at American-made EVs. Within days, Tesla was stripped of access to national EV subsidy programs in Germany, France, and Italy. The impact was brutal. While European automakers like Volkswagen, Renault, and Stellantis remained subsidized and affordable, Tesla buyers were left to absorb thousands in added costs. Demand nosedived, and the political messaging? Unapologetic. European leaders called out Musk by name, accusing him of cozying up to US trade aggressions. Their message was crystal clear. If Tesla wanted to play politics, it would face political consequences. Inside Tesla, executives were stunned. Musk had counted on Tesla's global prestige to weather any storm. But what he underestimated was how deeply personal these moves were. For European and Canadian officials, this wasn't just about policy. It was about punishing what they saw as the embodiment of American arrogance. The numbers painted a grim picture. Within 3 months, Tesla's exports to Europe and Canada plunged nearly 40%. Profit forecasts were slashed, expansion plans were frozen, and Wall Street began to panic. And just as governments launched economic strikes, Elon Musk responded, loudly and in all the wrong ways. Before we dive into the next twist, don't forget to subscribe. Meltdown in real time. In a moment that demanded calm leadership, Elon Musk chose chaos. As investors panicked, customers walked away, and global allies distanced themselves, Musk retreated to the only place he still had control: social media. Instead of diplomacy, he unleashed fury. He mocked critics, defended tariffs, and accused Canadian and European leaders of orchestrating economic warfare. His tone? Sharp. His message? Erratic. Regulators were bureaucratic parasites. Union protests were political theater. And when asked on live television about Tesla's crashing stock price, Musk smirked, "If you don't like the volatility, don't buy Tesla." That single quote, meant to sound bold, was the final nail for many institutional investors. Pension funds, hedge funds, and asset managers had seen enough. Quietly, methodically, they began to exit. Tesla stock was dumped by the millions. Automated sell-offs followed. Panic spread. Within 9 weeks, Tesla's valuation plunged into a historic freefall. But the damage didn't stop on Wall Street. Inside Tesla, anxiety turned into dread. Employees feared for their jobs. Suppliers demanded answers. Board members scrambled to manage the crisis as Musk became increasingly unhinged. The man who once symbolized visionary disruption was now the face of corporate volatility. And the markets that once rewarded his unpredictability now treated it as a liability. While Musk waged war on social media, something more dangerous was happening quietly: the unraveling of Tesla from within. And just as the company turned inward to fight fires, a silent competitor struck: Volkswagen's coup. While Musk was torching goodwill and investor confidence, Volkswagen was staging a methodical takeover. Behind the scenes, the German giant had been planning for this moment. Years of investment in its MEB electric platform paid off. With localized production in Germany, France, and Eastern Europe, Volkswagen was ready. As Tesla got cut off from Canadian and EU subsidies, Volkswagen slipped in. No tariffs, no backlash, no drama. They undercut Tesla on price, thanks to lean supply chains and homegrown manufacturing. Tesla's Model 3 and Model Y, once dominant, were suddenly overpriced and overexposed. Then came the marketing blitz. Volkswagen positioned itself as the true European EV, built by EU workers, backed by EU governments, a symbol of technological pride and political independence. By March 2025, Tesla's European market share had imploded. Volkswagen didn't just take Tesla's customers, they stole its story. From Berlin to Barcelona, Tesla was now seen as foreign chaos. Volkswagen became the trusted face of clean energy and economic stability. And as Elon Musk scrambled to hold ground in the US, he didn't realize Europe had already locked the gates behind him. But Tesla's story wasn't just being rewritten in Europe, because halfway across the world, an even deadlier threat was already waiting in the shadows. BYD's global takeover. While Elon Musk was consumed by headlines, Twitter tirades, and televised meltdowns, a silent storm was building. Behind the noise, one competitor was quietly executing the most devastating power play in the history of the electric vehicle industry. China's Build Your Dreams, BYD. As Tesla staggered under the weight of trade wars and consumer boycotts, BYD moved swiftly. Markets Tesla once ruled were being overtaken, cleanly, efficiently, and without a hint of friction. What made BYD truly dangerous wasn't just scale, it was control. Where Tesla still relied on fragmented supply chains and third-party vendors, BYD had long embraced total vertical integration. They made their own batteries, designed their own chips, refined their own raw materials. So when tariffs choked Tesla's supply lines, BYD simply ramped up. When Canada and the EU shut the doors on US-made EVs, BYD didn't knock. They were already inside: Asia, Africa, Latin America. Governments that once treated Tesla as the symbol of innovation were now tearing up contracts and handing them to BYD. But this wasn't just about consumer cars, it was entire national infrastructure being rewritten. In Southeast Asia, government fleets were rebranded overnight. In Africa, electric bus contracts were renegotiated in BYD's favor. In South America, BYD secured massive tax breaks to build local gigafactories. Tesla wasn't just losing contracts. Tesla was being replaced. This wasn't about pricing or politics, it was about trust. In an unstable world, Tesla had become a symbol of volatility, of erratic leadership, wild pricing swings, and political drama. BYD? They moved like a silent juggernaut, offering competitive pricing, local production, and something Elon Musk could no longer provide: political neutrality. Governments burned by US trade policy no longer wanted to do business with a company tied to Musk's unpredictable brand. They wanted a partner. They chose BYD. In just 5 months, BYD's global market share exploded. In nearly 24 countries, they absorbed Tesla's abandoned sales pipelines like a sponge. As Tesla made headlines for factory closures and shareholder panic, BYD was cutting ribbons, launching products, and announcing historic profits. And then came the psychological knockout. For over a decade, Tesla had sold the world on a single idea: that it was inevitable, the unchallenged leader of the electric future. But in Q1 of 2025, BYD did the unthinkable. They outsold Tesla in total global EV units. It wasn't just a milestone, it was a moment of reckoning. The myth of Tesla's dominance shattered. The throne had been taken. As Musk fought domestic chaos, he failed to see that BYD had quietly claimed Tesla's global crown. But the worst blow wasn't BYD. It came from a nation Tesla once called its closest ally: Canada's final strike. In April 2025, betrayal came from the north. After months of rising tension and retaliatory trade measures, Canada delivered a stunning, lethal blow. In an emergency parliamentary vote, legislation was passed. All exports of critical minerals, nickel, cobalt, and lithium, were banned from going to any US automaker involved in political interference or economic retaliation. The target? Tesla. What began as a policy shift became a declaration of economic war. Almost overnight, Tesla's access to battery-grade minerals vanished. The same minerals once flowing to Tesla's gigafactories were now being rerouted to Europe and China. Volkswagen signed an exclusive lithium deal with Quebec. BYD locked in Canadian nickel through a new Ontario refinery. Tesla was locked out. Musk's team tried to spin it, claiming they'd pivot to alternative sources. But the reality was far worse. Most of the world's remaining top-grade mineral reserves were already under Chinese control, or trapped in politically unstable regions. Elon Musk had bet on Canada's loyalty, and lost everything. Tesla's collapse and BYD's global ascendancy. Within mere weeks, the cracks in Tesla's empire turned into gaping fissures. Gigafactory output plunged by 35%, battery assembly lines slowed to a crawl, and production costs skyrocketed. Entire vehicle lines were suspended indefinitely. Across North America, Tesla dealerships received urgent updates. Delivery windows were being pushed back by months. Frustrated consumers, already weary from price hikes, leadership controversies, and political chaos, walked away from their orders en masse. Wall Street reacted with unfiltered panic. Tesla's already pressured stock dropped another 12% following the mineral export embargo from Canada. Analysts issued dire warnings. The embargo had the potential to permanently disrupt Tesla's supply chain and erode its competitive edge. Inside the company, senior engineers on internal calls admitted what few dared to say publicly: Tesla might not hit its production targets for the next fiscal year. The symbolism was brutal. Canada, once Tesla's quiet ally and a vital supplier of strategic minerals, had become the executioner. This wasn't just about resources, it was about trust, dependability, and geopolitical stability. And as Tesla's production collapsed, the market didn't wait, it pivoted, fast. The global pivot. Tesla, once the golden child of the electric vehicle revolution, suddenly became a liability. Unreliable, overpriced, and politically toxic. And the shift didn't happen slowly, it unfolded in real time. In Europe and Asia, Tesla-exclusive charging stations were quietly removed in favor of universal EV platforms. Governments that once hailed Tesla as a partner began scrapping infrastructure deals, replacing them with public-private agreements favoring local or regional automakers. In Canada, superchargers were decommissioned and replaced with co-branded units shared with European and domestic EV firms. Fleet contracts vanished overnight. Delivery companies, police departments, rideshare operators, and government agencies began canceling Tesla orders, turning instead to Renault, Volkswagen, and BYD. Even the U.S. Postal Service, under increasing political pressure, froze all future Tesla purchases, citing software security concerns. In Mexico and Brazil, national governments shifted their entire electric vehicle fleets to non-American brands. The corporate sector followed suit. Tech giants across Asia and Europe removed Tesla from preferred vendor lists. Leasing programs were halted. National insurance agencies raised premiums on Tesla vehicles, citing parts volatility and manufacturer instability. The brand that once represented the future was now seen as a cautionary tale. Industry publications that once celebrated every Tesla milestone began asking hard questions. Is Tesla the next Nokia? Financial influencers started promoting competitors. Analysts urged investors to diversify away from Tesla, branding it a fading leader in a market that no longer waits. The labor revolt. But the most devastating blow didn't come from Wall Street. It came from within, from the workers who powered Tesla's rise. Tesla had always promoted an image of unstoppable growth, but it was American labor, across its gigafactories in Austin, Fremont, and Sparks, that made that growth possible. By 2025, those same workers had turned against the machine. It began in Austin. Workers were pushed to the brink with mandatory overtime, stagnant wages, and rising safety violations. When Tesla's stock crash erased millions in employee stock options, the tension snapped. Hundreds walked off the job, holding signs that read, "We built this, you broke it." The protests spread like wildfire. Fremont followed, then Nevada. Union organizers, long kept at bay, seized the moment. What began as isolated frustration exploded into a coordinated strike. Tesla retaliated with terminations, legal threats, and security escorts, but instead of quelling the unrest, it fueled a national movement. By May, nearly 20,000 Tesla workers were on strike. Production lines went silent, unfinished vehicles piled up. Executives scrambled, while the media broadcast every moment. Public sympathy shifted rapidly, from Musk to the workers. National unions voiced their support. The rebellion had become a reckoning. Tesla was no longer seen as a tech icon. It was now the face of corporate arrogance, a company that scaled too quickly, leaned too heavily on political favor, and cracked under its own weight. Workers marched under banners that read, "No future without us." What started as a company's collapse became a national crisis. The market shock. Tesla's $130 billion market cap loss was more than a corporate catastrophe. It was a blow to the very architecture of the U.S. economy. Wall Street had long treated Tesla like a crown jewel of American innovation, an engine of growth across sectors, from green energy to AI. But as Tesla collapsed, the ripple effect tore through everything. Pension funds, retirement accounts, and institutional portfolios suffered. The illusion of Tesla's invincibility, an illusion that had propped up years of speculative investment, was shattered in days. The market meltdown. The crash wasn't a correction. It was a catastrophe. Major indexes like the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the S&P 500 plunged in lockstep as institutional investors scrambled to contain the fallout. Tesla's deep entanglement in mutual funds, pension portfolios, and government-backed clean energy initiatives turned its implosion into a system-wide shock. The damage rippled instantly. Millions of Americans watched their retirement savings shrink overnight. Their investment accounts bled red. This wasn't some speculative tech bust like the dot-com era. Tesla had been mainstreamed, subsidized, and sold as the crown jewel of the American economic future. Now that jewel was cracking. Confidence vanished. Credit lines dried up. Banks tightened lending standards across sectors, pulling back support from startups, green tech ventures, and even established manufacturers. Venture capital froze. IPO pipelines went dry. And with Tesla's fall, the entire clean energy sector stumbled into a deep freeze no one was prepared for. Then the shock reached the housing market. As financial institutions fought for liquidity, mortgage rates ticked upward. With consumer savings in decline and credit harder to secure, buyers fled. Home sales collapsed. Inventory piled up. Prices softened. In Tesla-dependent communities like Fremont, Austin, and Sparks, home values began falling in real time. It got worse. States like Michigan, Ohio, and California, once proud investors in Tesla's promise, suddenly faced mounting fiscal crises. Public budgets, once propped up by the expectation of EV-fueled growth, were now unraveling. Layoffs hit not just Tesla factories, but city governments. School funding dried up. Infrastructure projects stalled. Public transit expansions were shelved. The mood in Washington turned from confident to chaotic. Lawmakers who once hailed Elon Musk as a visionary were now being grilled in hearings for having backed a company that became an economic fault line. The White House convened emergency meetings with financial regulators to stop the bleeding. But it was too late. Tesla hadn't just collapsed, it had exposed a fragile economic architecture built on hype, overconfidence, and a single company's unchecked rise. And just as America scrambled to contain the internal implosion, another crisis was brewing, this one beyond its borders. The trade war backfires. While headlines in the US focused on Tesla's collapse, the rest of the world began reshaping the global economic order, without America in it. The trade policies that had helped ignite the crisis now came back full force. Only this time, the retaliation was calculated and relentless. Ottawa and Brussels didn't waste time. Canada expanded its EV-related tariffs to cover critical minerals, technology, exports, and even software. The European Union followed suit, enacting sweeping measures against US automakers and tech firms alike. American companies suddenly found themselves locked out of infrastructure projects, tax incentives, and renewable energy initiatives they once dominated. The message from allies was crystal clear. US economic aggression would no longer be tolerated. Latin America joined the pivot. Brazil, Argentina, and Chile accelerated deals with Chinese and European partners. Tesla's name vanished from public contracts, replaced by logos from BYD, Hyundai, and Volkswagen. Fleets once committed to American EVs were swiftly reassigned to foreign automakers. Quietly, methodically, the Tesla brand was erased from the global roadmap. In Asia, the backlash was even sharper. South Korea and Japan, once critical partners in America's EV ambitions, began distancing themselves from US components. China seized the moment. Through aggressive media campaigns and strategic investments, it positioned itself as the new global leader in electric vehicles and clean energy tech. In their narrative, the US wasn't just behind, it was irrelevant. By the summer of 2025, the financial tide had turned. Global capital began flowing east. Sovereign wealth funds shifted focus from Wall Street to Shenzhen and Frankfurt. Foreign investment in US manufacturing tanked. The dollar sagged against a new wave of currencies powered by green technology exports. Foreign leaders stopped speaking of competing with America. Now they spoke of replacing it. And so, the trade war that was once championed as a patriotic stand for American jobs had spiraled into a self-inflicted global retreat. The electric vehicle market, once Tesla's undisputed domain, was no longer American turf. It belonged to the world now. The consequences weren't just economic anymore. They were geopolitical. And in Washington, the mood had turned grim. The United States had only 3 cards left to play. None of them were good. America's terrifying choices. In the aftermath of Tesla's implosion and the global economic backlash it triggered, the US found itself cornered. Analysts and policymakers reached a chilling consensus. There were only 3 possible paths forward, and every single one came with catastrophic risks. Option 1. Rebuild the broken alliances. That meant reaching out to Canada, the EU, and other former trade partners, admitting fault, and rolling back the very tariffs that sparked the collapse. It was the diplomatic route, but politically radioactive. For an administration built on strength, self-reliance, and economic nationalism, such a concession would shatter the illusion of control. Yet, refusing to apologize meant prolonging America's isolation and accelerating its decline. Option 2. Double down on domestic production. This was the nationalist fantasy, an all-American EV supply chain. Massive federal investment in domestic battery refining, semiconductor plants, and mineral mining. Industry leaders lined up to sell the dream. But the timeline? Years. The cost? Astronomical. And for the millions already out of work or wiped out by the crash, it offered no relief. Option 3. Cut deals with unstable regimes. Privately, talks had already begun with countries like Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. These nations held the key minerals, lithium, cobalt, nickel. They were ready to supply at a steep political price. Dependency on dictatorships risked blackmail, corruption, and a moral crisis at home. If Americans learned their green future now hinged on authoritarian regimes, the outrage would be explosive. Each path was a dead end. None solved the immediate crisis. All were politically toxic. The fall of Elon Musk. While America debated, Elon Musk faced his own reckoning. The unraveling of a tech empire that once symbolized innovation, disruption, and raw ambition. Once at the peak of global tech leadership, Musk's brand collapsed in real time. Tesla's stock nosedived. Market share evaporated. Starlink fell next. European regulators, angry over Musk's political meddling, revoked operating licenses. Canada pulled contracts. Developing nations turned to cheaper, less controversial alternatives. Musk's satellite dreams crashed as fast as his cars. The media turned brutal. No longer a visionary, Musk became a punchline. His erratic social media rants became memes. Public appearances were met with boos, board members resigned, longtime allies vanished. His name became synonymous not with innovation, but with instability and collapse. Inside Tesla, hope faded. Layoffs loomed, executives fled. The company's valuation plunged, dropping below the legacy automakers it once mocked. And for the first time in his career, Elon Musk faced something he never saw coming: irrelevance. So what do you think? Was this Musk's personal failure, or the first chapter of a global economic reset? Drop your take in the comments. Like, comment, and subscribe, because this story isn't over. It's only just beginning.